Welcome to the Team Teach podcast. I'm Clare, and in each episode you'll find me talking with an expert guest to learn more about behaviour. We squeeze a lot into each episode. You'll listen to the latest thinking in behaviour, continue your professional development with our book recommendation, and then I'll send you away with 3 practical tips you can use in your setting. I'm joined today by Dave Smallwood, and Dave is our esteemed co-host who sometimes co-hosts a podcast with me. And today we're talking about reducing spitting in services. Hi Dave, how are you doing?
Hi Claire, I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Great to have you back on. I know you're right there. It's just a frog in your throat. Yeah, I know this is one where we sort of talked off air a little bit, and this is quite a common question I get on courses. I don't know about you, about spitting. Yeah.
The question comes up all the time, all the time. Every course, I think we do. We do a part of the course on behaviours of communication and what pushes your buttons, and it's always on the list. Always.
Yeah, it is. And just wondered, I guess, leading on from that and thinking about your experience, I've just realised that you do co-host sometimes, but maybe if you could give a quick intro to yourself and what you do.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a principal trainer for Team Teach, delivering Team Teach courses around the country. I also have a background working in education, mostly with individuals that have a diagnosis of autism. So yeah, that's my background really.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. And obviously, esteemed listeners that have been listening for a while, hopefully will recognise my voice. My name's Claire Edmondson. I'm also a principal trainer for Team Teach, and I've worked across lots of different services. So from mental health to autism services to social emotional mental health, and also an adoption and fostering agency as well. And I'm I've just qualified, I suppose, is a good way of putting it, as a counsellor therapist. So yeah, that's me and where I'm up to at the moment. Let's do the reflective question. I think this could be quite interesting. What we wish we knew then that we know now about the topic of reducing spitting.
Do you want me to go first?
I reckon so. Yeah, go on.
Okay. It's spitting is a behavior. For me, behavior is a byproduct of something else. So regardless of what behavior we're talking about, whether it be spitting, biting, kicking, punching, defiance, ignoring somebody, they're a byproduct of something else that's going on. And I think that's it. That's what I wish I would have known then. Sometimes we have these behaviors that are awful, and they're not right, and they're not great. If somebody's spitting at you, we need to do something about it. But it's not there and then that I can do something about it. I have to track back, and I have to figure out what those things are. There's no off switch for behaviors, or we can't just put behaviors into categories. There's always something behind it. They're always telling us something through that behavior. So
I'm thinking about this topic, and for me, it's kind of framed. I think working in social emotional mental health services, pupil referral units, and I think seeing sometimes spitting. I mean, for me often it's that person kind of indicating like such a huge level of frustration, like everything else is kind of tried, and then the spitting is kind of like the last thing to actually communicate and like say in a extremely angry way about how frustrated they are. And I really wish that I could kind of see that when I was younger and kind of fresh in my career. And I think hopefully it comes across on the podcast that when we're talking about these types of specific behaviors, trying to understand them doesn't mean that we or I think that everyone, should be spitting and it's fine and it's not a problem for those that care and work for individuals. But I think my ability to empathize and understand has just got better the more experience that I've got. And I really wish that I could have had that then. Although saying that, when we do kind of the things that kind of, or behaviors of communication module on a team teach course, I always think to myself that spitting is not a behavior that would cause me to be triggered. I have been spat at, spat on. It's grim. It's not pleasant, but it really genuinely isn't one that kind of really heightens me up. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like for you.
Um, I think my tolerance has changed a little bit.
Hmm.
I didn't used to. It sounds awful. I didn't used to mind it too much. It didn't trigger me too much.
Mm,
Um, but when I had children, it did change. When I had my own children, and something within me changed, and then my tolerance changed towards it, and then I didn't
mm.
really like it. Well, I never
That's
really liked it.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think the point I'm trying to make is that people have different tolerances, and those tolerances change from time to time.
Hmm.
Um, and also I have to acknowledge that it is awful, and for some people, it is really awful, for members of staff. And no matter how much empathy and compassion we have, sometimes that tires a little bit, and I've I've had enough of this now. Um, so what can we do about it? And I think that's where we're heading anyway, isn't it? What can we do about it?
Yeah, and I know this question's come in from yeah, a team teach participant wanting more content, more understanding, around this behavior. So I think maybe like a good starting point for us both to touch upon is the kind of why, like the reason why, because we know what spitting is, but the why would a service user, individual, young
Yeah.
person, child spit?
Well, I think we've got to first think about context. Where's it
Hmm.
happening? Um, who's who's spitting?
Mm,
Is it a 5-year-old autistic child that's pre-verbal, or is it in a drug and alcohol service with one of the
mm.
clients that comes in, who's an adult? Um, is it very much depends on the context, what's happening with that individual, and I think that's where we start.
Yeah, like the classic sort of team teach phrase, but the context is key. So trying to talk about spitting in general is, I believe, actually almost impossible because we need to think about the context that the behavior is happening within. And like Dave just said, like what's going on for the individual. But I know this is team teach 101, but what the behavior is communicating. So what we can tell from the spitting or what we predict or what the person like tells us. So we think quite carefully when we're thinking about behavior that the behavior isn't the isolated thing that we try and work with and understand. There's a whole process before and after. So, kind of what was leading up to the individual spitting. Did we notice any signs? But then afterwards, like what happened? How did we all feel? And what could we do differently? But also thinking about if the, you know, person is able to restore, talk through, understand. That's part of the process. So then this one isolated behavior of spitting becomes actually a really key part of understanding behaviors and the processes before and after, and how it is pretty much impossible to just tackle the behavior and see genuine change without looking at the whole picture.
It's got me thinking. We have to think about what's happened beforehand. If we only try and control that behavior, the behavior will never go away, whatever the behavior is, but we'll
Mm,
stick with spitting. An example, I've thought of an example. If I was working in one of the drug and alcohol services and a client came in and then spat in my face, uh, thinking about the reasons why they might be doing that, and it doesn't have to be spitting, it could be anything, but maybe it's to get their prescription. So that's the behavior and a way of there's a need there that
mm,
they want to be met. So that behavior is a way of getting that need met. Um, if that doesn't work, then what would the client then do? They'll probably move to another behavior. Maybe tears might start to come and they might start
mm,
crying, they might start shouting. But underneath it all, the need is still there, and that's what they're trying to communicate. So the behavior might change, but
mm,
the need doesn't change. So that's where we can really hone in on. We have to look at that need. We have to figure out what that is.
mm,
Is it a defense mechanism? Is it something to do with the sensory issues? Are they trying to seek some connection with somebody? Because spitting gets a lot of attention.
mm,
Uh, so let's have a look at those functions of the behavior. Let's try and find that need and let's sort that out. Unfortunately, it's not a quick fix. It takes a
mm.
long, long time and it's a process that we have to go through. But if we only try and control the behavior, it will stay. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the controlling. And there is an element, I think, in this kind of question and predicament where there is an element where there does need to, at some point, be some sort of control around the behavior. So, like short-term measures, that's how I kind of think about it in the services I train. We there's something risky happening, something that is impacting staff and those caring for individuals that are spitting. So short-term measures is around safety, reducing staff anxiety, hopefully as well. So that might be, if we're working with someone that is regularly spitting at sort of various times, having, I don't know, I've forgotten what they're called, Dave. They're face shields, aren't they? Face shields. It's
Face
reminding
shield,
me. Face shield.
yeah,
That's what it is. Face shields. So having face shields on hand. I mean, I think short term there are some of those precautions that we can take that can limit the impact that that specific behavior has on us, reduces anxiety. But as Dave was just saying, like that isn't a long-term measure that seeks to reduce the impact on others, but it doesn't do anything to address the need that person might be communicating through that behavior. So it's kind of twofold, isn't it? It's like, okay, let's keep people safe, let's reduce anxiety, which hopefully would reduce the anxiety of the individual that is spitting as well, because staff hopefully with some protective measures would feel a little bit more settled with the behavior, and have a plan around it always really helps. But then whilst we're doing those short-term measures, we're digging to try and think of longer-term measures that actually reduce the behavior from happening.
yeah. I entirely agree with that. And it's the long term measures. That's the thing. The long term. They are long term measures, and we're going to go back to basics of values and building relationships, aren't we? Over time and reducing that. It, I agree with the using of face shields or something there to protect staff in the moment. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes we need to do that, but it can't become the norm because we're just not going to get anywhere. I have seen it in the past, and um, staff get to the point where it becomes the plan sometimes and go in prepared. Uh, and often the individuals become a little bit isolated.
Mm,
The, whoever it is we're supporting, because it's deemed not safe enough to have them close to other people. So they might
mm,
be in a corner of the room by themselves with a member of staff with a face shield on.
mm,
Um, that it's not getting us anywhere. It won't get us
Mm.
anywhere, and we have to look at the long term.
We do have to look at the long term, and I think as you were, speaking then, like somewhat, I was thinking about context actually again, and having those short-term measures, those plans, like you say, to have the face shields on, but using it appropriately, not all the time, is kind of when we think that behaviors are likely to happen, we notice different signs and escalations, and we put those protective measures on. But I'm just thinking about context. So, an individual that has different communication methods might use, computer aided communication as a way of communicating, but actually through spitting may have learned to communicate needs through that, particularly when they don't have access maybe to the other method of communicating, or a different method of communicating. And I think in my experience in some services where there's a context like that, is that someone also can learn that I spit and I get that need met, and then that creates a kind of cycle of the behavior. And whatever that need is, maybe it's attention, like you said, like that's quite a common function of behavior, where someone might spit and they get loads of staff going, oh, and any attention is good attention. But a person can learn, I do that behavior, I get that need met, I feel better, I feel less anxious, brilliant. And I think it's, as services, kind of watching out for those cycles that have happened, because we might, write up the incident, so and so spat, but we're missing all the bits of the why, and really understanding that it's quite, cyclical, and it's kind of happening quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, and it can become that cycle.
Mm,
But then I think we have to change our perceptions of it, and it's not, oh, they're doing it because they want this.
mm,
It's they're doing it because they need this,
mm,
and it might not resonate with our own standards of what people need, but there is a need at that point somewhere along the line. Um, so if we take attention as an example,
mm,
if that's what they need, then we pour that on them. Let's give them the attention. Let's give them the attention for all the wonderful things.
mm,
When they're calm, when they're happy, we pour it on them. The behavior of the spitting won't go away instantly, of course, but over time they'll learn. Well, these people are here for me, and I'm getting attention for these wonderful things now rather than the spitting. Often, what I hear is, well, we haven't got the staffing, we haven't got the the resources in place.
mm,
But when everything's happening, those 5 members of staff come from somewhere.
mm.
Uh, so let's get them in before that, before anything happens. But that's only an example. It's not going to work for everyone. Um, and I think that's it. There's nothing that's going to work for everyone. We need to know the individuals. We need to have a relationship with the individuals.
Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. I think maybe you're feeling this on this episode, when it's a really specific question, because it's actually extremely hard to address. How do we reduce spitting? And it's so specific to each individual, which goes back to core values, right? That everyone is an individual, that we want our services to be person-centered, child-centered if we're working with children, person-centered, with adults. And that's what we want. And that's why with this kind of behavior, it very much is like almost forensically trying to understand, the why it's happening. And then we're thinking like short-term measures, safety, increasing staff kind of confidence in working alongside someone that is spitting. So that might be protective things. I also was thinking of reducing staff anxiety as well, as like spare clothes at work can be really helpful. I definitely have had to, in some services that I've worked in, have a couple of spare tops in work. That can just be really helpful to know that you've got fresh things to change into, not wearing your finest threads, to work, if you're particularly if you're working in a SEN service where this may be more common, and there may be like a sensory need attached to it, where we're not, we're talking like long term, trying to reduce it. And then I'm also thinking in those more specialist services where we might be working with people with additional needs, we're thinking also then about helping the individual to reduce the behavior, and that might be through social stories. It might also be through praise, specific instructions, visuals. All of those things, repeated, can help to reduce the behavior. So we reduce our anxiety, we help ourselves to kind of cope short term with it. Longer term, it's just this whole big plan, and there isn't a quick fix. There isn't a magic bullet that says, okay, do this, say this, and then that behavior is going to disappear. It's person centered, individual focused. It's forensically looking at things, adapting, changing, reflecting. It's ongoing.
Yeah, yeah, it is ongoing. I think as well, because it's so specific to the individual, we try things that usually work sometimes. But if you've tried that for a while, often we say with behaviours, we bring in a strategy. It often gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah,
So give it a bit of time.
yeah, yeah.
Build up the trust between the members of staff and the individuals are supporting. So possibly it'll get worse before it gets better. I think that's an important point for everyone. But if we've been trying it for a little while and it's not working, just do the complete opposite. If we've deemed it that they need to be sat in a corner by themselves with a member of staff away from everyone else, let's get them stood up and give them a bit of freedom, take them out and have a walk around,
Mm,
interact with the peers. And I know sometimes we get a little bit concerned with that with risk, but it's managed risk. I think we
mm,
look at our risk assessments and think, well, okay, well, this is what we want to happen. How can we make it happen?
mm-hmm.
And think outside the box. Just try something completely different.
Yeah, like it's really, yeah, really nice to talk through this one, because we off air we were a bit like, oh, this is questions we get on courses quite a bit. It's actually quite hard to address, but I think that we've tried to generalize. But if we're thinking about top tips and kind of what we want to leave people with, my first one is about what I just said in sort of the last segment around we're working with individuals, we're person centered, going back to our values. So we have to be extremely bespoke in our response and remembering that. So what's going to work for one individual in your service with this behavior will not work for another, or it may work, I don't know, but we have to kind of think in those terms. Another top tip, and again, I sort of mentioned it in the last segment, but is about balancing short-term safety. Like that is super important with this behavior. So protective items, see-through things used when the behavior is likely to happen, not just generally all the time. Having spare clothes, that kind of thing. But also balancing that with your longer term plan, which is the forensically looking at the information, the incidences, the what, when, where, reflecting, learning, and trying something different. So making sure that we get to that.
Yeah. My top tip is sit down as a team and really ask yourself this question: what are they saying? Um, and not what are they
Mm,
saying with their mouths, not what are the words coming out of their mouth, because often people can't articulate what they're feeling or what they're going through. So really knuckle down on that question. And what are they saying? Are they saying, I'm scared, I need more space? Are they saying, I'm scared, I need you to be closer? Are they saying, I've got a sensory need, I'm
mm.
producing too much saliva? Uh, are they saying, I just want some attention? Please come and give me some attention. What are they actually saying? And let's build our strategies around that rather than around the byproducts of what's happening.
Yeah, nice. I've really enjoyed chatting through this with you, Dave. We had some trepidation at the question just because it's hard because it's big and
It
yeah,
is, and
everyone's
it's the question that
different.
always comes up. Unfortunately, we haven't got the magic wand that stops spitting behaviours, um, but we can go some way to supporting individuals with it. But it
Yeah,
does take that bit of time, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, it does take the time. But yeah, thanks so much, Dave, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, Claire. See you soon.
You've been listening to the Team Teach podcast. It's been great to have you here with us as we discuss behaviour, communication, and the ways we can best support those in our care. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.